how to prepare a job cost sheet. Preparing a job cost sheet actually takes less time than the argument you're going to have with yourself when the job's not profitable. Most contractors in your space wait till the job is over to figure out if they made money, and that's the wrong time to start. By the end of this video, you're going to know how to prepare a job cost sheet that works before the job, during the job, and after the job, so you don't have to be caught off guard if that job actually made money. So we were in Austin, Texas, and we were speaking at a build expo for a bunch of contractors and builders, and had a guy walk up to me afterwards, and we were talking about cash profitability specifically, and he lobbed this question to me. I don't think my jobs are profitable. And I said, hey, do you mind pulling up your sheets? And so we did a little digging, and we found out that he had overrun his labor number by about 3 weeks on one particular job, and it completely sucked out all the profitability of that one job. What was the problem? The problem is he didn't know it until it was already done. He could have at least anticipated it, so he understood what the job overrun was going to be, so that in the future, both he could mitigate that, but then unfortunately by this time, he already put out a bunch of other estimates, and the only way to compensate for it is he was taking deposits from other jobs to compensate for the money lost on this job, which just turns into a game of musical chairs. All right, so let's take this in job costing in 3 phases, and remember what job costing is. Very simple. It's just telling us, is this job profitable or not, job by job. It is a very important number. You could push back and go, well, Scott, as long as I've got money in the bank, yeah, I must be making money, right? No, not necessarily. That's not necessarily true, because how cash flows within a construction business, you get large sums of money all in one spurt. You might get a $100,000 check or $500,000 check or $50,000 check. And you know what money does? It screws with our heads, it plays with our minds. And so we've got to be very thoughtful about how we do money. So let's look at job costing in 3 phases so that you'll have good health and profitability and understand what your profitability is on each job. First, we're going to start pre-job. This is actually the most important stage. You can't go into the job or post-job and have the information you need unless you first get the information through the estimate. So that's going to be step number 1, is understanding that estimate and understanding it in terms of what we call the slime. Now, our slime is going to be across every single one of these. The I doesn't mean anything. It just helps us to be able to say the word in the acronym. But here's what the acronym means, and you're going to use this on all 3 blocks. You ready? The S is for subcontractors. So whether you're a subcontractor yourself and you're subbing to other subs, it's a lot of subs, or you're a general contractor, and obviously you might have 40, 50 different bid packages that you're working with a variety of different subs on. And so you've got your subcontractors here. That's going to be a direct cost to the job. So if this is a job here, for instance, and the block represents your contract value, then what we're going to need to do is understand what's all this down here that we refer to as cost of goods sold, or COGS. Some of you know what that is, some of you don't. That's okay, now you do. And it's a major part of your profit and loss statement, which you need to understand what that is. In fact, I've got another video that I talked about where I actually cover the idea of a profit and loss statement. Okay, so we've taken our cost of goods out of our contract value, but the cost of goods is largely made up of this slime that we're talking about. So I talked about our subcontractors. Now let's talk about labor. Some of you might be like, hey, isn't that the same? Kind of. And some contractors will actually put these together, your subs and your labor. Some want to parse it out because you want to see one of these are subcontractors that are, legitimate bona fide subcontractors, like a subcontracting company. The other is just labor that you might have come around for special circumstances within a particular job. And here's what's most important about your cost of goods down here. Your cost of goods theoretically are only here if there's work. If there's not work, they're not here. But everything above your cost of goods, up in what we would call the overhead or the gross margin up here, these are kind of fixed costs that recur every month, whether you have work or not. So we got to be mindful of these up here as well. So your payroll, your rent, your internet, gas bill, all that sort of thing is usually going to get caught up in the overhead number that's up here. And so look at your subcontractors and your labor. These are going to be the people side of your cost of goods. And then you're going to look at the non-people side, or your materials and equipment. Now, materials pretty straightforward. That's going to be the topsoil and all the stuff that you buy. But the equipment's interesting because you could potentially break that out. Some of you have self-performing equipment, meaning equipment that you own. Well, we still need to treat that as if it's in its own rental agency, and we're going to rent that, or we're going to lease it to our particular jobs. So each piece of equipment needs to come with a $1 per hour, $1 per day, mobilization dollar, whatever terms that are. You can work with your accountant to put a figure on that. And then in your estimate, pre-job up here, we're actually going to take your slime and we're going to put an estimated cost of goods here. And then as the job continues, Then we're going to track it line by line by line by line by line. And then post-job, we're going to do an analysis to take a look at our estimate with our actual and see what the delta. You like that math thing there? I'm not a big math guy, but I tried. And so we're going to see what the difference is between those two. And the difference is what's actually going to show us the health of the job and overall profitability of that job. So where does this break down? The system. A lot of times we can build all this stuff out. We can conceptually understand how all this works. We can have really good intentions, and then we're at Lowe's and we don't take a picture of the receipt. Or we're somewhere else and we don't document that bill that a subcontractor sent us. And so in the moment, we don't actually track it. And when we don't track it, because we don't have a system for tracking it, then what happens is we can't get to the ultimate health of that job. And if we can't get to the health of this job, guess what? We can't get to the health of the other 5 or 50 or 500 jobs that we've done. And we have lost the gold that would answer so many questions that we have in our business if we could just track the health of this. Now I want to help you with this, because if we pulled the camera out on this is just one process of hundreds that exist in your business. So I want you to click on the link in the description below, where I'm going to walk you through how to build a system for your construction business. It is a long-form masterclass. I want you to sit down with the notes. The ultimate goal of that video is to help you run and grow your business with or without you, so you can understand where a job costing process actually fits within the larger scope of your entire business. Because this is just one process amongst tens, 50s, and hundreds that have to exist so that your business can run and grow with or without you. Once you get the job costing in place and understand where it fits within the system, now you're positioned to be liberated from chaos to make time for the things that matter most.